Welcome to the Business Insider Podcast, where we interview the top business leaders in their respective industries. Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode. Today, I'm excited to introduce a special VIP guest. We've got Pam Hurley here. She is the founder and president of a company called Hurley Write. Pam, thank you so much for coming on the pod today.
Well, thank you very much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Absolutely. Very stoked to have you here as well. As you know, I've got a bunch of questions prepared for you, and I'm sure our audience is wondering, specifically what you guys do and really what the major outcomes are for your clients that work with you. So before the podcast, you'd kind of given me a brief rundown on what that looks like. If you wouldn't mind reiterating that to the audience, Pam, that'd be amazing.
Absolutely. So what we do is we design and develop communication workshops for our clients, whether that is presentations, whether it's writing, whether it's reviewing. We run the gamut of communication. One of the things that we found, and one of the reasons I started the business, was that I found that I was teaching in academia, and I found that students weren't really being prepared to communicate effectively in the workplace. And my hunch was right. We started the business about 35 years ago. And so the outcomes are that people are better prepared to do the writing that they need to do, to do the presentations that they need to do in the workplace.
Okay, makes sense. So if you had to define your superpower or the unique skill or insight that really sets you apart in your space, what would it be and how has it shaped your success?
Well, my superpower is tenacity. I don't give up. I'm very much about the business and client satisfaction. I know that sounds like a cliche, but several years ago, we had a strategist who did some work with us, and she said, what would be the most devastating thing that a client could say about you? And my thing was that they said that we didn't deliver. We didn't give them what they needed, the outcome that they were looking for. And so I'm very customer focused. We make sure that the folks that we work with have a seamless experience and that they get what they paid for, to be quite frank. So I would say tenacity and a willingness to provide, to go above and beyond for our clientele.
Yeah, definitely. That's a very important superpower to have as an entrepreneur. I'm curious, what kind of inspired you to pursue this current path from the get-go? You mentioned you worked in academia. What kind of sparked that interest? And then what was kind of the momentum shift where you're like, I need to start my own thing?
Yeah, so I was teaching in academia, and one of the things I realized was that I had students, so I was in the English department, but we had students taking courses, and of course you have to take an English, the 2 English writing courses, the requisite. But what I was seeing was that the students from engineering and physics and IT and some of the computer science and some of these other fields weren't getting it and didn't feel like the English 101 and 102 was helping them at all. And I would totally agreed with that. It's not helpful. So I developed a technical writing class based on my research on readability studies, because what I wanted to do is to help them understand and help them develop the skills that they would need to be able to write in the workplace. And so that was really the impetus. And the students, loved it. In fact, I'm in touch with a lot of my students to this day, but I felt like they needed a good foundation to work from, so that when they got into whatever job they had, because these are not English majors. These folks aren't majoring in English. And so what I wanted to make sure of was that they had the foundation that they needed to be good communicators in the workplace. And so that was the impetus. And I really, literally, in the town we worked in, I just started making cold calls and finally got hired. And then from there, the business just took off because there was, the companies we work with saw a real need.
Yeah, it's definitely very valuable what you guys do. I'm sure it increases revenue,
Yes.
saves time, and
Yep.
makes people feel more accepted and able
Yep.
to communicate more effectively with their team. So that definitely makes
Absolutely.
sense. So just to be clear for the audience, who do you guys typically work with? Like what type of companies? Are there any specific verticals or industries you guys excel in, or what does that kind of look
We
like?
do a lot of work with engineers. Engineers, as we know, are wonderful people, great problem-solving skills, but
Yeah.
most of them can't write well. So we have clients from Fortune 500 companies to smaller organizations. We do a lot of work with teams of people. We do a lot of work we've recently developed a program where we work with the reviewers as well. Because one of the things that we find is that a company will say, oh, my writers can't write, they need help, blah, blah, blah. When the reality is that sometimes it's the reviewers that are the cause of the problem. They're the ones creating bottlenecks and things like that. And it's really been fascinating to work with reviewers, because oftentimes people are not agreeing about what to review for. So it's kind of like the wild, wild west. Writers are frustrated because they're getting all kinds of different comments, some of which are contradictory. And so one of the things companies need to realize is that writing and reviewing are an ecosystem. They have to work together to be efficient, to get documents out the door, to your point, to make people feel valued, to make them feel like their work matters. And so there's not this headbutting, as there often is in so many organizations, between writers and reviewers. So we're really proud of that. We're really proud of our ability to create this whole program so that companies can figure out what the real problems are and then solve those problems.
Definitely. So through your journey, how powerful has networking been to your success? And what would you recommend to other entrepreneurs to up their game?
I don't know about, I mean, we honestly, we have a lot of repeat business. I would say the vast majority of our business is repeat business. I've never been much of a networker, to be quite honest. We've done the trade show thing and that kind of thing, but we've never really done much networking. It's just really been word of mouth and repeat business, quite honestly.
Fair enough. I mean, I guess my question would be for the clients you did get, how'd you get them?
Oh, most of them we got through pay-per-click, to be quite honest with you.
Wow. Okay.
Or word of
Very nice.
mouth, yeah. Pay-per-click just worked very, very well
Yeah.
for us, yeah.
Definitely. So kind of switching gears here a little bit, let's talk about AI. Obviously, this is a pretty big topic these days. It's impacting pretty much every industry. How is AI impacting your industry specifically, and are you guys utilizing it?
Yeah, that's a really great question. So everybody thinks that AI is the best thing since sliced bread, that it's going to take the place of you. Nobody's going to have to write anymore. So these engineers who hate writing are never going to have to write anymore because of AI. That is so not true. And you read all the time about the mistakes that AI makes, and the list goes on and on. We're just not there yet. But we are developing courses to help people, workshops to help companies understand how to use it more effectively. But I would caution companies not to rush in and just say, oh, we're going to do AI and AI is going to fix everything. Because here's my thinking about it. People have been writing since they were in first grade. That's something that people are very familiar with. It's very we've been doing it. We continue to do it, blah, blah, blah. AI, not so much. You've got to learn prompts. You have to learn how to use it effectively. There's this huge learning curve. In fact, we had a client with the past 6 months, and they were going to use AI, and they just found out. They came back to us and said, we've decided not to do it because the lift is too great. They found they were wasting a lot of time because people have to get the prompts right, and they have to mess around with AI and figure it out. And then you have the reviewing piece of it. I would much rather review a document written by a human being who has some knowledge than AI who's just spitting stuff out. So I think it's a myth to think that AI is going to take the place of anybody. And I'm sorry, I know that's bad news for some people, but I think you're mistaken if you believe that that's the silver bullet to writing, because it's just not.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. I think it's one of those things where, people have to, use it respectfully in the right places, right? I see it more as an enhancement of what humans can do,
Yeah.
right? Where you can't eliminate a human. So if we're talking about writing specifically, like as you said, generating generic prompts and replacing humans isn't going to work, because you're also got to think that, the thousands, millions of other companies also using that AI are going to be getting similar responses or similar things. And that's pretty important to be able to understand. But what I would say is you still want to use AI for, it's great for idea generation,
Sure.
right? Rather than maybe sitting there with your team for a few weeks, days, thinking to how do I get this kicked off? How do I get this started? Maybe you get some ideas, maybe you get some prompts, and then you actually yourself craft it into a better thing. So that's kind of the way we use it, at least. Obviously everybody can use it the way they want to, but I think it's really using it, leveraging it to save time, save money, and then you still have people managing those AI systems, and you still need people in the business. That's never going to go away. So I definitely agree with what you're saying.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I mean, it can be a good brainstorming buddy. It's a great way to get some ideas, but to think that it's going to totally replace writing
Yeah, no,
is not true. Yeah, I agree with
definitely.
you. I mean, used well, it's a tool just like a calculator or anything else.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So, what is one of the biggest challenges you've had to face in your life to this point as an entrepreneur? How did you overcome it? What is one life lesson you learned from that experience?
Oh gosh, let's see. I don't, it's just, I think it's just learning to, so when I first started the business, it was just me and I managed the business myself for 25 years. And then we decided to grow. And so then we brought on people. I never wanted people. I never, I never wanted employees because I knew, because it was easier for me to control because I was responsible for everything. And so when you bring people on, sure, we're growing, we're going very quickly, and it's great, and the people we work with are great. But that has been somewhat difficult for me, especially in terms of being able to delegate and being able to, say to other people, you need to do this and you need to do that and you need to do the other. And so I think the life lesson I've learned is I need to spend my time in areas where it makes the most sense for me to do so as the president of the company, and not do stuff that I can give an admin to do, or work on minutia or things that don't do anything to move the needle. And I think it can be hard for entrepreneurs, especially people who are starting a business by themselves. As you grow, learning how to let go and let other people and trusting other people that they're going to do what they need to do and do it well.
Yeah, so I actually have another question for you. So that's kind of something I've reached a point in with my businesses is where finding the correct talent
Yes.
I've found is extremely difficult. And yeah, for me, it's like, I business is my baby. It's very hard for me to kind of let go of, certain things and kind of allow another team member to fully, take over that realm just because I've experienced in the past, through different hires, different people. It's like, I feel like sometimes I can't trust them to do as good of a job as I can.
Yes. Yeah.
So what's kind of your thought process on that?
Well, I think that you just have to, I'll tell you this. When we first started hiring people, I was very, very reluctant to let go. And so consequently, I was giving them minimal kinds of tasks and I was doing everything
Yeah,
else.
yeah.
And what I found was when I started to give them more and more and more, that in a lot of what I discovered was that they have great talent that I wasn't even aware that they had because I was too focused on making sure that they did things exactly the way that I wanted them to be done. And in a lot of ways, they were doing things in a way that was better than what I was doing.
Yeah.
So it really helped me expand my horizons and open up to the idea that, and we have one woman on our team, for instance, who she's an amazing instructor, but she's also this wonderful instructional designer. And I didn't even know that. And well, let me do that. I'm like, oh my gosh. So she's doing all this stuff. And if I had kept her in that box, because I didn't, I was worried about, the product and the service and everything, then I never would have discovered that. So it's just been kind of eye-opening to me to understand that people are more than one thing. But I totally agree with you in terms of hiring talent. I thought when we first started, oh, it's going to be easy. We'll just get some PhDs and da 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 da.
Yeah.
And you get people and they, one of part of our, they have to present to us. And they know their stuff, but it is like watching paint dry. And when you're working with professionals who don't like to write, you have to be engaging and interactive and know your stuff. You can't be boring and dry and, so, I mean, it's been very difficult. I mean, finding good people, we've been through a lot of frogs.
Something I'm going through right now.
Yeah.
So, looking forward to, I've gotten a lot of great advice. That was amazing advice as well. And I'm definitely looking forward to kind of getting over that hurdle. No, it's going to be a continuous thing for, as long as I own a business, that is going to be a
Yes.
bottleneck. But, just learning from the mistakes I've already made and growing is, that's the focus and goal. So appreciate you saying
Absolutely.
that.
No problem. Just, yeah, you just gotta keep
Yeah.
going.
So in a rapidly changing world, I mean, where do you kind of see your industry headed over the next 5 to 10 years?
Well, I mean, I think that I think we're going to have to be more involved in education. And what I mean by that is educating people about, because of AI and because of the misconceptions about I feel like we're going to have to continue to educate people about the value of people being able to write or communicate as human beings. And you and I were talking a little bit before the podcast about AI. And one of the things I believe, whether this is true or not, is that the companies that rely on human beings and not AI are probably going to rise to the top, because to your point earlier, this idea of everybody's producing the same garbage. And if everything reads the same and is the same and there's nothing distinctive about what you're doing, why would I hire you if you're going to produce the same? I'm going to go for the lowest cost. So it's a race to the bottom, in other words.
Right.
So that's
Right.
kind of what, and I don't think I answered your question at all, but
It kind of did. I get what you're saying. Yeah.
okay, yeah. And so the other thing is we've developed this communication diagnostic, and the idea behind the communication diagnostic is it helps people helps companies root out the cause of their communication issues. Because one of the things we find often is, oh, my team needs grammar help, and blah, blah, blah. And here's the thing: your team does not need grammar help. Grammar help is not your problem. Grammar is not your problem. There's all kinds of other problems. Writing is more than grammar. Grammar is at least your worries. But this communication diagnostic helps people understand what's the root of the problem. Is it reviewing? Is it your templates? Is it your tools? Would AI be useful for you? Are there other things that you should be doing that will help your team blossom and become better communicators? And we're the only company in this space that does that. And I'm very proud of that. And I can see that expanding and more companies taking advantage of that.
Yeah, definitely. So, in your experience, what do you feel like is the biggest problem in your industry from your client's lens, and what are you guys truly doing to solve that for them?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think the biggest problem is that there's an equation of poor grammar to poor writing, and the two are not related at all. The other thing I feel like is with a lot of our competitors, and if this is what you're asking, I think with a lot of the problems with our competitors is that they are the classes they're teaching are not geared toward helping teams improve because they're not focused on the right thing. And what I mean by that simply is everything that we teach is based on readability studies. It's science. So it's not just, oh, here's the tone and here's the style and here's the words you shouldn't use and here's the words you should. And so writing becomes this do's and don'ts instead of thinking. And our workshops have actually been, we actually have had people say this isn't really a writing course, it's a thinking course. And so that's one of the things. So that's really what makes us unique. And I think why we continue to grow and why companies continue to hire us, because it's not do this, don't do that. It's how do I take this human being in front of me who is an incredibly intelligent person, or I wouldn't have hired him or her, and teach them how to take what they already have, those great problem solving skills, and apply them to communication so that
Yeah,
the end result is that they are a more confident and better communicator.
that makes sense. So, Pam, if you wanted the viewers to take away one thing from this interview, or you can impart with one final thought or idea, what would that be?
Get your team the training they they need.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. No, I really would. What I would impart to people is you need to if you're having communication issues, you need to figure out what they are. Don't spend money on training or anything like that until you know what those problems are. And again, we do that with our communication diagnostic. And we actually have a download, if you're interested, for free. That it's a checklist you can go through and see what some of your problems are. It's kind of like a mini diagnostic.
Nice. Nice. How would they get a hold of that?
You can email me, pam@hurleywrite.com, or you can hit me up on LinkedIn, Pam Hurley, Hurley. Our phone number is 877-249-7483 if you want to give us a call, but happy to provide that to you free. But it's a great checklist in terms of figuring out helping you start to figure out what some of the issues or the root cause of the issues, of the communication issues.
Well, that sounds very impactful. So guys, I'm going to link all of Pam's stuff in the description. Definitely go check out her resources. They're doing an amazing job for their clients. And Pam, again, thank you so much for coming
Thank
on
you
the
very
pod.
much, Riley. It was very nice to meet you.
Yeah, I had a pleasure having you on. Learned a lot about you and what you guys are up to. Thanks for coming.
Thank you very much.
All right.